Dr. mchangizi here with your Science Moment. Yesterday I went to the Van Gogh exhibition at the Columbus Museum of Art and got to see maybe a couple dozen of his works intermingled with many of his inspired pieces that that inspired him. And something happened mask related, so we had to wear masks, and I've sort of given up at certain kinds of places like art venues. You really have no choice, and I imagine it might be stuck with us for the rest of our lives. And my wife is not going to let me not go to these things ever again, even though I avoid it, at shops and restaurants and coffee shops and stores and so forth. So anyway, you're going through the whole exhibition, and I come out sort of at the end, and it pushes me into the gift shop. And as I'm standing in the gift shop, just waiting for my wife, looking at books, this older fella, maybe 80-something, comes out. And he comes out and he stands sort of facing the wall, pulls his mask down to the chin, and he sounds just like this. And just goes on and on like that. And he's got an oxygen tube, I presume connected to some kind of little oxygen kit that he carries with him. So here he was spending 45 minutes, however long he could stand it, with his mask on, up over his nose in the midst of that kind of situation where it's really impossible to take it off. And I don't know whether he asked the folks that are working in there whether he could or he couldn't, but as we've seen, and I've seen it many times, folks who have severe reactions to it, or panic attacks, if they said, no, you get out anyway. You're not allowed in here. You're violent. There's a zero tolerance. So I don't know whether they had a zero tolerance in his case or not, or whether really it's in some sense beside the point. The pressure, the social pressure, walking around, even if he was told it's okay, all the people around him staring, looking at him as an unclean person who's violating the moral standards of what a good person should do, make it very hard for a normal person who's normally social to push against those rules. It's very hard. This person could barely breathe. He was suffering the entire time. And so my reaction, well, I'm sitting in the gift shop, and I say, hey, just pull your mask down. Don't worry about it. Now, I think he's so expecting people to attack him with his mask down that he didn't even for a moment imagine that I might have said, hey, take the mask down. So his response was, well, I have to pull it down every once in a while because I'm really having trouble. And I said, no, just pull the damn thing off. You can't breathe. You shouldn't be wearing a mask at all. It's not healthy for you. And now he's looking at me. He's still not even quite sure that I was saying to pull it down, because again, the expectation is that he feels so guilty for what he's doing that surely I'm telling him to put it back up. And eventually then he sort of gets it and he goes, okay, thanks, sir. Thanks for being on my side. Thanks for realizing what I'm going through. This person has, I'm going to guess, 6 months to 3 years left of his life. And every time he goes out, he's under this extreme pressure to cover up his only 2 breathing holes and not have a normal, enjoyable experience, to experience really what amounts to, and what was used as torture in various, like Guantanamo Bay. So we have this irony. The other part of this is that it's the Van Gogh exhibition, and many of us, as we're there, we're looking at his beautiful pieces with such large variety of stuff. But we're also thinking this guy was, at the edge of sanity. He was, he wasn't like me and you. He was out there. He was, struggling with his sanity. So, and the irony is that even though each one of us in that place was presumably, on average, much less mentally ill than was Van Gogh, as a group, as a mob, as a social group, we're much less rational. So we individually can be not psychopaths at all, not have any psychopathology, but as a group, what do you think that that Van Gogh ever would have sort of pushed moral pressure on some old person who can barely breathe to wear face covering stuff that's making him feel suffocated? I doubt he would have ever done that. But as a group, we do these kinds of things all the time, and we do it without empathy, because the group becomes has a psychopathy. It becomes, when there's a mass psychopathy, a mass hysteria, the individuals have nothing wrong with their brains, as we've talked about, but as a group, they're capable of much greater meanness, much greater craziness, much greater evil than any individual, including Van Gogh, ever could. And that was your Science Moment.